Yeah. You got me. Is that Jean Marie? Okay. Who else is coming in here? Hello. Something else. Oh, here we are. Hello. Think, are you unmuted? Is that Jason? Is that right? I see someone. And hello. Is this Jason?
That's my dad.
Oh, okay. Is that your dad? Who's taking the class?
Alden, me. Alden.
Oh, you are. Oh, your name is Alden?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Nice to meet you, Alden. I have Jean Marie on here, but we're not seeing her yet. Or I don't know what's going on with Jean Marie, but well, welcome, Alden.
Okay.
I'm just looking up America's first ghost story. And we're waiting on the others. I think we're 7 people, maybe 7 or 8. Hey, there's Pauline. And Jean Marie. And Jean Marie, are you that on mute?
Now unmuted.
There we go.
So
Now I'm unmuted.
yeah, I'm muted.
Yep,
All set now.
I think so.
All right.
They like to throw pop-ups at me.
Yeah, of course they do. A pop-up thing.
Mhm.
Oh, well, good to see you.
Ooh,
And
so
I'm
long.
waiting for, we should have some more coming in.
I'll wait till the last minute.
You know how that is. Yeah. Well, we're a little early.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I got on in time.
Yeah, well, I had a lot of fussiness with even setting up the Zoom. I don't know, there was some bunch of glitches, so you guys got the notification.
Oh, I got it from Merrymeeting yesterday.
Yes, I know. It should have gone out the day before, but I was having some technical issues and I don't know why this is doing this. Okay, let's see if I can open this beautiful thing up here. Oh, my computer, it's so slow. And I'm not sure. I think Rachel signed up. I don't think Jeffrey signed up.
Said he was going to.
I
but
know, I bugged him, but I didn't see him sign up, so maybe he's got too much stuff going on.
Yeah. There's some very fitting sound effects.
Well, it's not me. It's might be coming from Alden is his name. The name is Jason on the screen, but his name is Alden.
Yeah. It's a cool name.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is a cool name, Alden.
Yeah.
Okay, here comes Renee.
Hmm.
Let's see. I'm trying to get this. I don't know what is going on with this.
Renee has
right, hello, Renee? I see Renee. And we have a Beth coming in. Hang on,
They're coming in now.
coming in now. All right, I gotta,
And gone.
oh, well, it could be connection.
Yeah.
And I know we're getting thunderstorms around here, so,
Oh,
shoot, what the
I
heck?
just saw something on Google, something about a perfect storm is brewing, and I can never remember what a perfect storm is.
Oh, yeah, who knows? Well, there was that incident with the nor'easter and,
Hello,
hello, is that Renee?
hear ya.
Can you hear me?
My grandmother talking on the
Or is
phone.
that Pauline?
Yeah, she's talking in the background.
Oh, okay, I thought it was.
No,
hang on.
she's on the phone talking to somebody or trying to.
Oh, she's trying to talk to someone else. Okay, hang on, I'm
Yeah.
trying to.
This is Pauline Hughes. I was in
Oh,
early to pick up the med. And it wasn't ready yet. But when I got.
Lori
home,
Lodge has started.
There was a message
Review.
saying that I had some scripts overdue to pick up.
there we go.
What
I made a PowerPoint for everybody to know they're
Mm.
in the right class. If I can
is it for
get this over
January?
here. And we're still waiting on people. We have about 7 or 8 who signed up for the class, so
A lot of them drop out by week 2 or 3.
I hope not, but okay.
Well, no, you don't hope for it, but it's what happened last time I was in one of your classes.
Oh, I know that. That was too bad. I don't know what was going on there.
We had some there.
So now we
this
have
is last time when I was
Beth
a kid.
coming in. I'm gonna text
Pastor-
Rachel and remind her
Okay,
that
I've only been picking up
Rachel.
like here, but that's okay. We'll be in tomorrow to get them both. Not happy.
What are they trying to
The
tell you?
bed's overdue. for
There's
6
James.
Oh,
And they didn't give them to me?
because you're not me. Is
Because
that what they're
I've
trying to
only
tell
been
you?
picking up your
James has joined.
for 25 years.
But I'm saying, is that what they were trying to say? That it was because you were,
No, they said they couldn't say that. They know
Oh.
I pick up, it must be someone new. So I guess I can be thoroughly pissed at someone besides myself for a change.
and me.
Oh, and you?
Well, I mean, I still know what you were, what you are. I got a poster today and she wasn't happy.
Um,
But it's a fairy.
a fairy poster.
Well, it's a fairy on a crescent moon.
Mm-hmm.
And
It
it's
has absolutely nothing to do with anything right now.
it's also a 24 by 36.
Okay, what's going on with
Mhm.
Rachel?
They
Okay,
should-
Rachel should be coming in here in a
Wonder
sec.
where it's going to go.
But anyway, bed draw.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And waiting, I got another one who just messaged me. She's signing in here in a minute. And then we'll start. And we're gonna start getting acquainted with each other to know why do you want to know about ghost stories? There's got to be a good reason.
Can you try this?
What was that?
I think it's
Win F3.
shut up, computer.
What? Oh yeah.
Windows
She wants to know if I can turn my volume up and it's not behaving. There we go.
F3.
Oh,
Rachel
quiet, computer.
Yeah, she has a talking computer. Rachel's coming in. And I think
I've ruined my
Yes.
iPad.
there's Rachel. All right. Well, welcome to our ghost stories for a summer night.
Ooh.
I am your host. Why not?
Yeah.
And gee, Merrymeeting said, can you run a class like this. We tried to do it last summer, it didn't happen, but this summer we got interest. So I said, all right. I'm a writer, among other things, and I do focus on horror a lot and paranormal. I've also participated in some paranormal research and have done some documentary work on paranormal investigations in Maine. So I just want to know, I'm going to go around. We're going to, who is not here right now? Let me see. I got to make sure I see everybody. Okay. I have to change my view so I know who's all here. Why isn't this doing it the right way? All right. I think that's about right. There we go. So I don't know if anybody want to volunteer and go first. What is it? Renee, would you like to start? Tell us
Sure.
about yourself and why are you interested in ghost stories?
Well, I live in the Brunswick area, and I've always liked ghost stories, especially Maine ones. I have a lot of nonfiction
Mhm,
stories for Maine,
mhm.
a lot of collections and all that, and I like a good ghost story. Nothing really gory, but creepy is good also. And
Creepy.
so when I saw this class advertised, I was like, oh, this sounds like it might be interesting. So I signed up.
Good. Well, I'm hope it's gonna be. I said, I know I'm so academic, I get too academic sometimes with this stuff, but I'm hoping we're gonna just have fun and learn about ghosts and why people want to talk about them. Who else do I see up there? I see someone with the name of James. Who do I see on the screen?
I'm happy. I'm happy to go. Jim just had to leave for a moment, but I'm happy to go. My name's Deb.
Deb,
And,
that's Deb. Deb, you contacted them yesterday? Was it you who contacted?
I did.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a technology thing going on, so go ahead. That's Deb.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Deb.
I'm interested in this because of Alden, who's going to be on this.
Yeah,
And
Alden is there.
Alden and Jim were telling ghost stories around a campfire last summer. And we were having a great time. And I just thought that, and here's Jim, I just thought that it would be really fun. And then Alden's mom, Beth, got involved as well and said she was interested. And
Yes,
so
Beth.
I was
Okay.
really interested in seeing
We're
seeing what we could learn more about telling ghost stories, because
Right.
it came from a great campfire.
Yeah.
And Alden is quite the ghost storyteller already. So we decided that we would just, out of real interest, and Beth found this class. So I have to give all credit to Beth.
All right. Well, that's great. And who is it? Jim? Is that the other, your significant other here? So Jim, the same reasons? I'm just trying to find out why people are coming into the class. Because you shared ghost stories.
Frankly, I think,
Go ahead.
frankly, I think the others wanted to be able to tell a better story than I told them.
Well, maybe we'll wind up doing that. I'm looking forward to hearing everybody's ghost stories. Yes. I'm sure there are lots. And Beth, so you're Alden's mom?
I am Alden's mom, and I'm Jim's daughter.
So
So Alden
this
is actually on, I think he's here as Jason.
Yes, I got that. He was the first one to go. Well, Jean Marie was first, and then he came in, and so
And I'm
yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure if he'll, well, I don't know that he might not turn his
That's
camera
okay.
on,
That's okay.
which is totally, yeah.
We're good with that. So is Alden the one who sort of inspired everyone to hop on board this course?
Sort of, yeah. Well, we've always sort of been a storytelling family.
Yes.
And as Deb said, it sort of came up last year around a campfire. And
what was the source of your ghost story material? Stuff you'd read, you created, some historical stuff.
Oh, yes, I think,
Oop, we freeze.
probably a little bit of all and nation.
I'll say again, because you froze a little bit. We're having
Oh,
some Zoom
Can
issues.
you hear me?
I can hear you.
I think it's probably a little bit of all of that
Yeah,
with just some imagination.
a lot of imagination. That's true. Jean Marie,
Oh no, not
yes,
me.
it's your turn.
Sure. Hi. I'm very weird at first. I guess I got interested basically because I am a published author. For one of Lori's magazines, and I write some horror stories for her, but I was thinking of trying to learn about ghost stories.
Oh, you've written a few ghost stories.
Well,
We
yeah,
talked
but-
about, yeah.
well, yeah, but I mean like actual ghost stories.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, oh, yes, stuff based on experience. Oh, was that Pauline?
He says
Not
non-gory.
Ghost stories.
Non-gory, but experiential,
Yeah.
right?
And for anyone wondering, that's my grandmother hiding in the corner back
And
there.
she'll be popping in and out. And
Yep.
and Rachel, who's sitting there quietly with her feet. We see your feet, Rachel. And look, your legs. She's turning. I don't know what's going on. Rachel, what's going on? No idea. Well, Rachel will come in when Rachel can figure out what. I don't know what's going on there. Rachel, was that an iPad? Are you playing with your iPad? We see your legs. I don't know.
Mm.
There
There
she
you
is.
go.
What's going on?
You-
We're waiting for you. You're on mute.
Mhm.
Sorry,
Ah,
am I
stranger.
face first or am
Your
I?
face. We don't see your legs anymore.
Oh, okay.
See your face.
Oh, all right. Because I'm only seeing Lori's face, so I didn't know if I was on candid camera yet or not.
Hmm.
But I take part in Lori's horror writing group, even though I'm traditionally not a horror writer. I like historical fiction. But I did write a ghost story
Mhm.
about a Civil War widow haunting her family's house.
Mm.
And they've got it up for sale and they're going, how the hell do we get rid of her? And so it's not so much a horror ghost story, but more of a kind of funny, sentimental ghost story.
Right. Ghost stories don't have to be horror, actually.
Right.
And well, who knows the first documented ghost story in the United States? Do you know what it is? Anybody?
Mm-mm.
No idea. Even the ones who know all the ghost stories from Maine. Renee, you know all the ghost stories from Maine.
What was the first one?
Very first ghost story ever documented, recorded in the United States.
Oh,
Wasn't it someone up in Bucksport?
Nope. No, there is the Bucksport Witch, but that's not the
Yeah.
first.
I can't, I can't remember. I'm sure I've read about it, but I can't remember what it was.
So we're going to look at it a little bit tonight. Nellie Butler, 1799. First documented recorded ghost story happened in Sullivan, Maine.
Mhm.
I read it was Machiasport, but I was doing some research on it today and it was actually Sullivan, Maine. And from 1799 and 1800, this woman who had died, a wife of a man named Butler, she died in childbirth and the child died too.
Aw.
But then it was time, in those days, these men would want to remarry. And I think he was 29 years old. And apparently her ghost was making noise in a home that wasn't necessarily his home. She was kind of making noises in various places up there in Sullivan, Maine, but she was trying to get the message to her husband that he should marry this 15-year-old girl named Lydia. And apparently there were up to 48 witnesses of her hearing her voice and seeing her apparition. So it's an interesting
Wow.
case. that still has puzzled people to this day, but that's our first ghost story, recorded ghost story in the United States. Do you remember that one? Anybody ever heard of it?
Yeah, once you mentioned her name, I did.
Nellie,
Yeah,
is that
Nellie,
pretty
but
much
yeah.
it? The story that, what do you know about that, Renee?
Oh goodness, it's been a while since I heard about it, but yeah, I think that was basically what you said, was that she had died and
Mhm.
came back to haunt her husband.
Yeah. Yeah, and was it scary? I mean, it didn't seem like people were scared.
Yeah, it wasn't like, it
Yeah.
wasn't like Stephen King or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just kind of creepy. And I'm sure at the time, 1799 to 1800, they were probably like, oh my word.
Yeah,
So-
very well, the typical things, not rapping and knocking and disembodied voice. And then somebody up there, someone in the group said, show yourself kind of thing. And then she did materialize and they had witnesses to it. Somebody put their hand through her, apparently. Yeah, a lot of detail in this story. So
Hi, I was gonna reach my hand through you.
so then the speculation is, how did this manifest? How did this happen? What were the reasons for it?
Mm.
He did make a dire prediction that whoever he married, if he would marry this Lydia, she would also die in childbirth. And sure enough, he did marry her, and a year later, she died in childbirth.
Oh wow.
That's
Wow.
pretty creepy.
Hmm.
Anyway, so let's see what I don't know. I'm such, like I say, I teach at college, so I'm always doing PowerPoints and trying to make things sort of educational, I guess. So I did do this show, if it'll play, if it'll go somewhere. Come on. There we go. So here are your grave questions.
Grave questions.
They're grave questions. So where do ghost stories come from? I want to hear some discussion here. What are your thoughts
Well,
on this?
how far back do they go? I've
They
read
go
that
back quite
they
a ways.
can go back to like ancient Rome.
They go back further than that to ancient Mesopotamia, Babylon. Here's the earliest recorded ghost story. There's others. If you read the Tale of Gilgamesh, there's also talk of, the dead coming to life. But according to this tablet here, and you can see it where they've enhanced it, you have the god Shamash, who is the god of the underworld, leading a soul there, and telling it, don't look back.
Yeah,
You
that's
can't
a
look.
big one.
What was that?
So that's a big one, even in Greek mythology, with I think it was Persephone and what's
Oh,
his
yes.
name?
Oh,
You
it's
can't
in
look
all
back.
that. It's in the Iliad. There's lots of accounts, but the belief was, this is based on the belief, but this is the story of, this is where you go when you die. And I don't know of any other particular aspects to it, just that you have left the living and you're going to the underworld. But this is the most fascinating one here to me. First century common era, Pliny the Younger, who was a Roman lawyer and politician, he wrote a letter to a friend about a haunted house in Athens. And the people left the house. It was too scary. It was somebody appearing. They could hear chains rattling. They'd hear moaning. This is classic haunted house stuff from the first century. And it was a philosopher, and I think his name is in there in the picture, if I can read it. Athenodorus. So it was a philosopher of the day, and he heard about the house. So he bought it to live in it to see if it was true. And the same thing happened to him. But he didn't run away. He had a conversation with the ghost, and the ghost wanted to be, someone who didn't have a proper burial or something on that order. But he sat and said, well, what do you want? What are you here for? You're not supposed to be here. But that's like the first haunted house story that goes back that far. So you see, they do from what we get from records, it goes way, way back. Let me see. Different traditions, even in Asia, that goes back also. The Buddhist and Taoist traditions, they have what they call hungry ghosts.
Mhm.
What do you know about this? You never heard of hungry ghosts?
I have actually.
What was that? Have you?
Yeah, actually, I don't know. There was this show on, I think it was Travel Channel. It's called A Haunting, or some of
Yeah.
it. And it was based on true stories.
Right.
And one of the stories I remember was this family, the dad was a businessman and he got a job in Japan.
Mhm.
And so they moved into this monstrously huge house. And they had some weird goings on around there and all that. And so they got I want to call him, I can't remember what they were. It was like a priest, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And he came in and said, yeah, you have what they call hungry ghosts in
Right.
here, and you need to feed them. And so I think they did end up having to move out because it wasn't really working out. But
Oh,
they
yeah.
did give them, filled up a basket full of food and
Yeah.
put it outside, outside the house. But I mean, I don't know if this was a true story or not, but that's where I heard the term
Yeah,
hungry
I
ghost.
remember that episode because I watched the Ghost. I mean, the Travel Channel, the
Mhm.
Ghost Channel should be the Ghost Channel, pretty frequently. And I think they were in Taiwan. He was a businessman in
Oh,
Taiwan.
was it Taiwan? Okay.
But Japan, they have versions of this.
Mhm.
Korea, and I lived in Korea. I spent about 10 years there, and I wrote an article that got published called "Fearsome Female Phantoms" about female ghosts in Korea. And their female ghosts are pretty scary and pretty brutal, which is similar in Japanese culture as well. But these ghosts can be male or female. They are largely known in China and Taiwan. They are basically people who have been neglected, or no, they neglected their ancestors. They were not good to their ancestors in life, or they were criminals, or they did bad socially. They were not acceptable people. They may have not had proper burials either, but they are out, they're hungry, and they're out to plague people with all kinds of bad activity and bad energy. And yes, you need a shaman to come in to clear the place. And but you see, they have their concept of what a ghost is. And then the Christians, early Christian times, it was basically to get people to pray for them so they could get out of purgatory and go to heaven. And then we have tales in the ancient Greek mythologies of, I think Odysseus went into Hades to met up with Ajax, and talked to his spirit, and trying to find, either pull somebody out of there or to find some.
You might have been the one that was trying to get Persephone. I always get those ones mixed up.
Well, I think, are you thinking Orpheus? There's
Yeah,
that wonderful
probably.
legend. There are legends of going into the underworld and trying to retrieve loved ones or get them to pass to someplace nicer. But actually, the Greeks and that, what did they have? The Elysian Fields, and then they had Hades, and the Elysian Fields is like a like a nothing place.
Yeah.
But Christianity introduced this concept, well, no, Judaism had heaven. They didn't really have hell, they had Sheol. So the question is, where do the dead go? But I'm going to go back to hang on a second. I want to go back to our questions. So where do the stories come from? I mean, why do people do this? What's this compunction to tell ghost stories from ancient times, even now? There's a reason. What's the reason for it? Any thoughts? Anybody?
Maybe
Well, it's the whole question of what happens to you after you die, and do some spirits. I mean, everybody has some sort of ancestor worship.
Yeah, there's
culturally.
Some do,
And-
some don't. I mean, some just say you're dead, gone, goodbye. We won't even mention your name anymore. Some cultures, like the
that's true.
Abenaki people, would do that. They put their bodies in the ground, cover them up. Done, done, done. We leave the area, and that's it. And you don't even mention their name. You might tell a tale if they were a great warrior or something, but you just left them. Some people go back and have to pay homage to the dead. Asia, it's a big thing too. Ancestor worship. In other places I've been, I mean, you go to the graveyard, you know, your grandmother, great grandmother, put flowers on the grave. That's respecting, honoring your ancestor, isn't it? But
Yeah.
yeah. Jean Marie, what were you gonna say? You were gonna say-
Like something like trying to keep the spirit, people alive through the stories.
Ah, yeah. Some cultures do that. They want to keep them alive. Some cultures don't. Depends where you are in this world. Some places it's very taboo to name the dead or
Right.
talk of the dead.
Yeah, I know I was reading a story, which I think was a fiction story, but I think it had some real to it, like research, and there was some culture somewhere that it was like you talk about them and they stay alive kind of and wherever they're at, but when you stop talking about them, they die and their spirit kind of goes away.
Yeah, and so, like again, that's a cultural thing. How about Alden? You got any ideas on this? Why do we have to tell ghost stories? Why do you like to tell ghost stories?
Well, I just think they're cool stories, like when I tell them.
Okay.
But
Keep
I
going.
mean, we can tell them to maybe tell people like not to go in this place, like it's haunted or something,
Ah,
just dangerous or something like that.
sure. Warnings. Yep. Yeah, there's a purpose. And I mean, again, historians, I'll send you guys this PowerPoint because I got some links to some interesting material you could click on and read. But yeah, this guy here, this Scott Bruce, he's a historian and he has a page, Hope in the Dark History. I thought that was pretty cool. I like what he said here. The dead remained stubbornly social in pre-modern ghost stories. And that really, I saw that line. I'm like, what does that mean? But they remain stubbornly social, these ghosts. What do you think that means?
They wanna hang around the living.
Yeah,
They want to be known. They don't want to be forgotten.
right. Man, I just saw that sentence. I had to put it in here. Also, yes, they want to be around their loved ones, and I think in ancient beliefs, not even, I can say even some current cultures, for example, Thailand, Burma. I was working with a 90-year-old Burmese woman once and working on her, helping her with her life, telling her life story. That's what anthropologists do. We do life histories and things. And as I'm sitting there, listening to her talk about her experiences, she says, "Oh, my husband approves." And I'm like, "Oh, is he here?" Well, I knew he was dead actually. But I said, "Oh, is he here?" And yes, he's sitting in the chair right there. And he's looking at us and he's nodding and he comes and goes like he wants. But it was not a big deal. It was like, "Oh my God, there's my husband." No, it was he'd been dead a long time actually. And
You're just hanging out.
yeah, but to her, that was not a big deal.
Right.
So he was pretty social, I think. Anybody know of any other stories of ghosts that hang around because they want to be with the fams? Any? No, nothing.
Well,
What was that?
For me,
Is it Jim?
I could offer an experience when,
Yep.
as a young family, we moved into a farmhouse. It was like the fifth generation of the family, and there did seem to be some spirit energy sort of hanging around in a back stairway.
Ah,
So I imagine ghostly spirits might not want to give up their physical place that generations had lived.
right. Yeah,
So,
that
you
is a
know,
thing.
maintaining a connection
Right.
to the past.
So
somehow,
Jim,
What's the place?
was it
to
scary?
the place.
Yeah, to the place. But was it scary for you guys living in there? Oh, you froze on me. We're having some internet glitches.
Mm.
I don't know what's going on with their internet. If the internet
My
goes,
late wife who experienced,
yes.
who,
James has left.
Oh, yeah, they dropped out. Oh, they'll be back. Just keep signing in. You know how it is. I'm lucky. Mine's
James
running. Mine is running as well as it is.
Mm.
'Cause it often crashes too. And then we had thunderstorms going on. So, all right, you're back. Yeah, you got to unmute, James. I think you're still muted. Or when you come in, it mutes. Oh, yeah, I think you still muted, James.
there we go.
There you are. So let's
Right.
hear that again.
Yeah, we're back.
Yes. You were saying, oh, you're freezing again. This is,
Okay.
we got chat. Let me check chat
I'm
here.
not sure where that cut out, but I was mentioning that in this,
The internet is
But-
haunted. Yes.
Yes, probably it is.
The internet
Go-
is
go ahead,
haunted.
James.
That's probably.
James.
so we, are you hearing me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, so I was just saying that when a young family with my late wife experienced feelings of cold, not fear, but
Mhm.
kind of a cold spirit that she spoke to, and it never came back. But it was sort of in one part of the house.
Mhm.
And I always think that spirits are connected. And in fact, while we were house hunting in that house, there was a house that I stepped in the front door would go no further
Mm.
because it didn't feel right.
Mhm.
And so I've decided that ghosts sort of reside in old homes where families have lived for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most, I don't know, it's one of the very common examples of ghost stories or encounters is they're in a
That makes
place.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah, they're attached to a place. And I just wonder, I mean, if there are family members who are descendants of that person, are they being visited by these ghosts, you know? They want to remain true. I mean, I saw some footage once and it looked like it wasn't fake, you know, there's so much that's fake. It was a family that had a young child, well, it had a couple of kids, right? And the grandmother, and I think it might have been the father's mother, had passed away and fairly recently. And they had security cameras in the house, and the security camera call looked at what you could see was like an arm, a woman's arm, some part of a body. You couldn't see the whole thing. And it was like going from the one child's room to another, passing right through the doors. And it was really trippy to see what looked like. The guy said, "That's my mother's arm." But yeah, their security camera caught that. So here's grandma checking in on her grandbabies, you know, and that was nothing scary, you know, it was comforting, you know, right? So just like my Burmese woman friend, when she says her husband's sitting there listening to our conversation, then I'm like, okay, as long as he doesn't do anything. But you know, to her,
You had ghosts.
no, but she, you know, to her it was nothing. And I've worked in, you know, been in other cultures. Some Native American cultures are that way. No, that's my something over there, my cousin or my great grandfather. And I think the show Reservation Dogs plays on that, where the spirit of a Native American's ancestor relative will come and give them guidance and help them. And it's not a scary thing, you know. To them it's pretty natural. But other people freak out, right? So we talked about when the first ghost stories are recorded and why we tell ghost stories. Hey, how about some famous ghosts? We know any famous?
Well, there's the classic Dickens, the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future.
Yeah, but they weren't real.
Abraham Lincoln.
Which
How do you-
Abraham Lincoln is very famous ghost in the White House. He's been seen more than
Oh,
once.
yeah,
I
yeah.
know he was a ghost. I know
Well,
he was gay
he
back
saw his
then.
own death too in a dream. That's recorded in his diary. He had a dream.
Is he a psychic, just like Nostradamus?
Well, I think there was something going on, but he said he came down in the dream, he came downstairs in one of the rooms. He saw a coffin and women were crying, and he looked in it and it was him. And that's recorded in his diary.
Wow.
Isn't that pretty creepy? And who saw
That is
him?
creepy.
Some royal person from the Netherlands or something was staying in the White House in the 1930s or something. She saw him. Truman wrote in his diary he may have encountered the ghost of Lincoln.
Wasn't Bloody Mary a ghost?
And that's a myth.
No.
Oh no, you're gonna do the mirror thing and see if you can conjure her, Jean Marie?
I'd rather not. I'd rather see
Bloody
Anne
Mary.
Boleyn, but
Bloody Mary. I don't think Bloody Mary's real.
Mm.
It's a great urban legend.
What
Yeah.
what about the witch's boot on the gravestone
Bucksport?
in Bucksport?
Yeah, that's a good one.
ghost, right?
Has anyone
Sure.
seen? I've seen it. Have you seen it? I think I got it.
Yeah.
somewhere. What's the legend of that again? What's the
I
legend?
don't remember the specifics. There's something about Captain Buck did something to a female,
Yeah,
and somehow the curse was like her stocking or his boot or something was left as a marker on the grave
right,
marker,
Beth. Yeah, Beth. Yeah,
and it's been removed, but it keeps coming back or
coming back.
something.
Renee, what do you know about that legend?
I have seen it, and it does look like a foot on the grave, but I've heard different versions, but the one that I've read the most of is that supposedly they were having an affair,
Yes,
but he's supposed to be this upstanding person, and she was a lowly,
Lola. Yeah,
Is it
low,
whatever?
low positioned. Yeah,
yeah, and so I'm not sure if it was about something happened, and so he charged her with a crime, and they end up burning her to the stake, or I think
I don't
burning.
think I don't know if she was burned, but
Yeah,
she was murdered. I
she
think.
ended. Yeah, he ended up having her killed, and so she cursed him by saying,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a foot put on your grave," and it's been there. And I recently read a story, the same thing about it, but supposedly on the headstone there's another. I can't remember if it was a heart or what it is, but there's supposed to be another symbol on.
Mm.
I had never heard about that one before, and I've heard that story hundreds of times. But there's
Yeah.
supposed to be something else, some other symbol on the headstone too.
Well, I didn't notice one, but when I was up there,
Yeah.
I got pictures. I
Yeah.
I don't know that legend too well. I don't know a lot of
Mm.
legends of what's up here in Maine. But I do remember visiting, and because I heard about it and I got some pictures, and I left. And that was it. Anyone else? You got pictures of the Bucksport witch story? Alden, you know about that story?
Yeah, I heard about that.
You heard about it? Have you been up there?
I saw it driving by, I think, but I never
Mhm.
specifically went up and looked at it very closely.
Yeah, it's a little tricky to find a way to get off, and I don't know. I remember I had a little problem navigating to get a place to park and walk in there. How about some other famous ghosts? There's lots of them. Come on.
I don't know
Only
any.
ones I know about are in literature,
Yeah, it's all fake.
Oh my gosh.
The
there's-
Legend of Sleepy Hollow,
Well, that was of course that's a great legend, and it was Washington Irving, right? But
yeah,
based on what, that's the question. Even that there was Revolutionary War stuff going on, and I think there was a Hessian soldier that did get his head blown off, that there was some fact to that, because that's what the ghost of Sleepy Hollow was supposed to be. The headless horseman was a Hessian soldier who got his head blown off, and was doomed to ride and haunt headless throughout the region. So I think there was something he drew from Revolutionary War events. And we should all know the legend of Sleepy Hollow, but yeah, that's a pretty famous ghost. The unnamed Hessian with a
Mhm.
jack-o'-lantern for a head.
Mhm.
Oh, come on, there are too many. famous.
There is, this isn't in America, but this is a story I've heard several times, and there's actually supposedly a photograph from the 1940s. It's the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall.
Yes, very famous.
Yeah, and the story is these photographers were taking a picture of this house, Raynham Hall,
Yes.
and one of the photographers says, "Quick, quick, take a picture." And what they got was this filmy.
Yes, it's on the
person coming
staircase. Is that the one
downstairs.
on the staircase, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
very
and,
famous photograph. Yep.
James had.
Oh.
James had.
Somebody disappear again.
Mhm.
Was that Jean Marie's thing? Go ahead,
No,
Renee. I'm sorry.
well, it
I'm
was
sorry.
Anthony came in.
Well, Europe has got a lot of famous, like Anne Boleyn allegedly haunts.
Yeah,
her
the
tower.
only other one I think is like
She
I've heard
carries her
of
head around. I mean, Anne Boleyn has been seen.
Oh
with
yeah,
her
yep.
head.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, you go to Scotland, Ireland, they have all kinds of lords and ladies and who allegedly haunt places. I think Leap Castle in Ireland is very haunted with different entities, and but yeah, the White House is not I'm going to bring it back to America, but not just Lincoln. Abigail Adams has been seen, a couple of other so Abigail Adams has been seen, I think, again up through the 20th century. Someone saw her,
James had.
in her 18th century. Oop, they disappeared again. The ghosts are coming in and out. She's been seen carrying laundry in the East.
James had.
And the East Room was not finished when the Adamses lived there, and that's where she used to hang her laundry. Another haunting in the White House is Dolly Madison, and she was famous for the rose gardens. And I don't remember what administration did they start ripping them out. Might have been during, I don't know if Jackie Onassis did. Somebody in the 20th century, one of the president's wives wanted those rose gardens gone and had the landscapers come in, and they saw this woman in 19th century dress wagging her finger and yelling and screaming at them. And Madison's been seen a few other places in Washington. I don't know. I know places in California, like Marilyn Monroe's ghost has been seen.
Oh, yeah, the Winchester Mystery House.
Well, there's that, but that's
She supposedly haunts that.
not Marilyn. She doesn't go there. She doesn't even know what that place is. I don't think.
No. I meant the woman who
widow.
built it.
Well,
The
yeah,
widow.
the widow Winchester. She was the widow of the guy who invented the Winchester rifle, and she was into spiritualism, and she was warned by many psychics. She was extremely wealthy. She inherited all the wealth from the Winchester rifle manufacturing, and she moved out to San Francisco, I think it's where it is. Then
San Jose.
San Jose. She built a house, and she wouldn't stop building because the house is really freaky. You can look it up. It's got stairways that go nowhere, and just all kinds of doors everywhere that some open into a wall. And she was told to keep building and keep building to confuse the ghosts. You need to keep them confused. And then of course she dies, and then the building stopped. Plus it got affected by the 1906 earthquake. So the building took some damage as well, but now it's a tourist attraction, and they claim, I think they claim that her spirit is lingering in there. And then they've seen other people like workmen in working clothes in there. The museum people have a lot of stories of that house. That's a real trippy haunted house. And it was designed to keep the ghosts out, or to make them feel lost. To go through that door and it goes nowhere, kind of thing.
They
So.
just go through walls and yeah.
Yeah, you'd think so, but yeah, I don't know. She had a lot of money, and she listened to all those spiritualists, so try to give her advice. Go ahead.
So where are the ghosts coming from?
I
If
don't
it's a
know.
brand new house.
They're supposedly
They're
the
not
ghosts
connected
of all the
to-
people that were killed by the Winchester. repeating
Supposedly
rifle.
she was being haunted by all the people who had been killed by Winchester rifles.
That's a lot of
Or
ghosts.
so she thought.
The belief, she believed that she had to keep them at bay. They were gonna come and get her.
That's
She's
a
the
lot of
wife-
ghosts.
Wife of the person who did the rifle and caused a lot of death.
Mm.
How about have ghosts and ghost stories changed over time? You think so?
Eh,
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, look at that classic haunted house story, the
Yeah.
chains and the moaning. Well, that's Charles Dickens telling. I don't know if people hear chains anymore when the ghosts are rattling, when the ghosts are coming around. I don't recall in modern times you hear chains rattling. So think of that, all the centuries where they would report a ghost with rattling chains. What does that mean?
Hmm. Isn't it usually when they're
It's like
chained, 'cause they're like chained to the earth or something.
Well, in the case of who was Scrooge's partner,
Marley.
Marley.
Yeah, he was chained to his money, his earthly, possessions. I mean, wasn't that what he was carrying around with him?
Oh, maybe. I just read that recently, but I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, and then I think there's some cases in American history where they were enslaved people.
Oh,
And
yeah.
people have heard that noise because they were enslaved. But it's very classic in a lot of literature, the moans and rattling of chains. Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Come on, I want.
Well, I think ghost stories, well, at least in the movies,
Yes,
ghost stories are a lot more gory than they used to be.
Mm.
a lot more gory. Yeah.
A lot more gory, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I like, the movie Insidious.
Yes.
That was really scary. Well, I thought it was scary. I don't remember.
It is a scary movie. Yeah.
It wasn't gory.
No, it's
And,
not.
so it just goes to show you can have a good ghost story without it being blood and guts and the eyeballs falling out and all that.
So here's a movie. If you haven't seen it, you can see it for free on YouTube, or you can on archive.org. It was made in 1961, starring Deborah Kerr and I think John Redmond, very fine British actors. And it's called The Innocents, like innocent children. The Innocents. And if you want to see a good ghost story that is got creepy factor, but a good story, it's not gory, watch that movie. Netflix tried to remake it called The Legend of Bly House. Don't bother, waste your time. The Innocents, excellent ghost story. Very atmospheric. Yeah. I watch it anytime I see it or I run across it, or I just watch that movie over and over again because it is so atmospheric. It's based on Henry James, The Turn of the Screw. Now that was not such a great piece. I remember reading that in college. Huh? Really? You know what it is?
Turn the screw? Yes, I know.
It isn't that. It's a 19th century piece, and to me, it isn't that effective. But the British movie did a really great job, and it's got some wonderful moments that I think fit more of people's actual encounters with ghosts. If people encounter ghosts in real life, we're not thinking special effects. The door closing, the shadow, maybe the appearance of what looks to be a woman. It's sudden and it's there and it's surprising, but it's not this what you see CGI stuff. The Innocents, very good movie. I recommend. You can see it for free. It's really worth it. But yeah, you're right. Ghost storytelling or horror dealing with ghosts has made it a much more gruesome experience. Although I have to say, I think, if you read Shakespeare, he's got some ghosts, doesn't he? Hamlet's father and Macbeth.
Oh yeah, Macbeth.
And that was a gruesome ghost. I
haven't even read it. I just know that it's a ghost.
Yeah, appeared at the banquet. But I don't think Hamlet's father's ghost was gruesome. It was just surprising, But,
well, and his father's ghost in Hamlet does the quintessential ghost thing. He comes back and tells him tells Hamlet, doesn't he, who killed him?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, and he's got
And like he reveals
Mhm.
the cause of his own death,
Yep, and
which is kind of almost a quintessential ghost story thing.
mhm. I'll see if this link works.
Where the ghost kind of reveals to the living.
But again, you know, that's
What
fiction. I
happened?
mean, it's Shakespeare and
It
it's
kind of reminds
fiction.
me of book I read a couple years ago last year, Anna Dressed in Blood.
And
She
that
can-
was, yep,
It's a ghost story. I don't remember exactly what it was, but she did eventually tell the main character how she had died.
hang on.
Lauren Watch has
Hang
stopped.
on,
And
hang on,
90%
we're listening.
No.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'm also like 90
Lauren
some odd
Watch has-
percent sure that they ended up falling in love, but that's kind of weird.
Well, yeah.
I have to read that again.
So anyway, here's, you know, like I said, I'll send you the PowerPoint because you can check these articles. They're kind of cool. Look at this medieval ghosts here. I borrowed them for the slideshow. But yeah, he tries to explain, you know, what it was like for ghosts in the past, and all these cultural aspects to it. So look at, they do not rely on shock tactics to frighten the reader. That's the thing about ghost stories of the past. And usually they're typically not malformed or malevolent in intent. And the story is didactic. Let's see, the purpose of these stories is didactic rather than entertaining. So there's usually some kind of cautionary tale or some morality tale. And then they were there to get us to ask probing questions. So even in the case of the ghost in the house in Athens, and then the philosopher buying that house, he spends time to try to talk to the ghost. Probing, we should have probing questions about, I guess, what do you think we have probing questions about? What are our probing questions?
Like for the ghosts?
Yeah, or yeah, sure, or for ourselves when we're talking about the ghost. But yeah, you have a
Yeah,
ghost,
like
don't you have
why-
probing questions?
Why are they still here? And what do they want?
Yeah, what do
Okay.
they want?
Is there anything
Yeah.
we can do to help them move on?
Well, why do we have to have them move on?
Well, yeah, that's true.
What's the afterlife like?
Why are they
Renee?
appearing?
Right, Renee, go ahead.
I was just saying, ask them, what is the afterlife like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't even realize I died, so
Yeah.
There is that thought that they don't know they're dead. So they look at pre-modern hauntings, and he does his in a historical way. Let's see. He reveals reason for unrest. They need to receive help from the living to repose in the afterlife. So it's up to the living to get to the place that they need to be, wherever that is. And here we have Elpenor in Homer's The Odyssey, and the ghost implores Odysseus to bury him according to custom after he dies in an accident, because if they're not buried properly, in fact, during the Iliad, one of the worst things that the Trojans did to the Greeks was when they killed Ajax, for example, they would drag their bodies around and commit sacrilegious acts on the body, because the body was considered very important for the stability of the spirit. And ancient Egyptians believe that too.
yeah, because they took out all the brains and everything.
Well, they didn't understand what brain was. But they had a way of processing bodies so the body would be intact. And the Greeks, no, they did bury and they did cremate as well, but you wanted to do
Like
respect to the dead. What was that?
To bury Norse properly, you have to put them on a ship and set it afloat and burn it.
Yeah, if they were of that status, they had to be a
Yeah.
warrior. Yeah, you burn them on their vessel, then they go to Valhalla.
Yep.
But you didn't do sacrilegious things to the body. And in the Catholic Church too, you wanted to bury the body in the right way with the right rituals. And if for example, victims of suicide, let's say, or they were not buried in sacred ground, And so their spirits were often believed to wander about. Yeah, so he goes into the Christian phase, and then ghost stories provide us with the opportunity to ask probing questions, like how people lived in the past. I mean, don't we have these in certain
Yeah.
fantasy novels? When you, what's that TV show now? Ghosts? Anybody watch it on
Mm-mm.
CBS? Aren't they people? Tell me about it. What was your name again? James, and you're muted. No, you're muted now. Oh,
There we go.
what's your name again?
Hi, I'm Deb.
Deb. Okay, Deb. So you watch it. So what's interesting about the ghosts in that show?
It's interesting that they're from different times in history and that they're still operating in their own cultural mores from that period in time, but interacting not only with each other across those periods, but then also with the people in current time, and all of them interacting and having friendships and relationships with each other and fights with each other and trying to resolve things that happened in their own lives in different periods of time, and trying to help each other, or it's quite a comedy, and it's I hate to say it, but we always watch it. We really look forward to it.
I should watch it. I haven't, but I know it was kind of a ripoff of a British version. I'd rather see the British version myself. I'm sure it's better, but I do like the concept that here are all these ghosts coming in this one house, but they are from different periods of history, and they're from different ethnic and cultural backgrounds, and they think they look at things like, isn't that, why are you doing that, in with the modern family, why are you doing that? And that would be so, unimaginable or sacrilegious too, I think there was an episode of Ghost Hunters when they first started back in 2000 or whatever, and they were in some house in Rhode Island. Remember, these are Roto-Rooter guys, the original Ghost Hunters. They were Roto-Rooter guys, and then they got the show by the producer of American Chopper, and because they did a demo reel of weird activity they couldn't understand. But I do remember one episode, they're investigating, they've got their little devices, they've got the recorder, they caught a voice. And again, I don't know how true it is, but they caught a voice, woman's voice. What is this contraption? And it was very clear. But here's a woman, if she's dead, she died maybe last century, and she sees these electronic things and she doesn't know what they are. I thought, well, that would have been an interesting encounter, but that was an interesting episode. All right. So anyway, yeah, I'll send you this so you can look and read about this. Let me get out of here and go back.
Laurie Much has.
Yes. Jean Marie's computer. Quit telling me what I'm doing. No.
Tell me what you're doing.
I don't know what I'm doing. Oh yeah, hang on. Let me get back here because we can look at the case of, I have it.
Laurie Much.
So here, you can just Google Nellie Butler, and this is a pretty good site. Here's the knocks from the cellar. That's where it started. And it's documented in the winter of 1799, but it goes on until the summer of 1800, so like August. So wintertime, and they're hearing this knocking in the cellar, and she was 21 when she died. Yeah, she started communicating with a neighboring family, Lydia, because it was the idea to arrange another wife for her husband. So there she is. He's a matchmaker. Now, I did hear other versions. I think it's been noted too that she kind of later on wanted to take it back, and she started messing with him, like, how dare you marry someone else? I'm your wife, kind of thing. So they started thinking Lydia was doing it. She could be a witch or demoniac, possessed. And so because Lydia would hear the voice, all these people would encounter her. Anyway, And then there's actual parts of the account. And there's been one book written about it in the 19th century. And I think it's up in the museum in Augusta. They have a history museum, I think, has it. There's only one copy. But anyway, yeah, you can Google that and read about it, because it is an important case historically, right? It's the first case that was written about and documented about a ghost. Now, there have been a couple of cases in U.S. history, and I'll have to look them up, where ghosts were the reason for a court decision. Anyone, you know about that, Renee? You heard about those cases?
I have heard stories about a story about a couple who sued
From the
a realtor company because they sold them a haunted house and didn't tell them that it was supposedly
Lauren
haunted.
Lodge has
Yeah.
And they sued and they won.
Yes.
Because they were able to prove or whatever that their house was haunted, that they were mentally distressed or whatever. And I don't know what state it was in, but I had heard that story that
So there's actually a whole community out in Texas. That was a new development. You know, they built these tract house kind of, you know, cul-de-sac thing. They cleared a lot of land and built this back in the, was it the 60s or somewhere in there? Maybe it was even the 80s. And there were some weird events going on in more. One family was suffering a lot of weird things, poltergeist almost activity, and a sudden illness and a lot of weird accidents. And then the other people in the neighborhood were experiencing similar things, and they researched and found out that housing development had been on the graveyard of former slaves. They had built on a graveyard of former slaves, and there was a hanging tree that several people had been hanged. So someone did all the historical research, and I think a lot of people moved out. That wasn't just this one family, but a lot of people moved out, and they had to get, paid back. I mean, the realtor had to pay them back what they put in, or some of it anyway. But that was a real case, went to court. But you're right about the other. I don't know where that was, but yeah, you have to divulge. This is true. And in some states, they require the realtors divulge, which is interesting, because now this belief system is codified into law, that you have to divulge if there has been like a death in the house anyway, or that has been haunted. I don't know if all states do that, but some require it. It is in realtor code. Countries like Taiwan and Malaysia, that is in their law. If you're selling property, you have to say it's haunted. It's in their actual law, because belief is so strong. So interesting. But there have been cases where maybe it's a murder case, I think, and the guy, I don't know, the ghost appeared and pointed to the accused, or the accused finally confessed or something, but it recorded in the courtroom. So that was pretty interesting. See, they're serious business, these ghosts. Hang on. Oh, I just lost you guys. Hang on one sec. I know I was going the wrong way with this Zoom thing. I think I'd get it done. I'm gonna go back to my fun little slideshow. Let's try. We were here. Let's see. Let's go. We're here. I went all the way to the beginning again. So yeah, this guy here with the chains, I love this story. This story fascinates me. All right, we looked at that. So what are types of ghosts? Types of ghosts, like I should have labeled this differently. I should say motivation. Oh, types of ghost stories. I'm sorry. The types of ghost stories that get told. So let's think of what are they? What kind of stories? Like Renee said, in the past they weren't gory. But what are the plots of the ghost story? So I listed a few here. Can you think of any others? Like usually the revenge thing. And can we think of examples of these? Revenge, out for revenge. there's another story recorded in ancient Greece of a man's wife coming after him for revenge for murdering her. That goes also, I think, to the 1st century or previous. So there's stories of ghosts coming back to get revenge. There are lots of those stories in Asia, and almost every ghost is a woman going after a man. They are killer ghosts. Can you think of any kind of revenge ghost story?
Not revenge stories, but not ghost revenge stories.
I don't know if you would call the movie Poltergeist,
Yeah.
if that would be out for revenge because they built a housing project. You know, they moved the headstones but not the graves, and so I don't know if that would
Yeah,
be.
wasn't that Native American burial ground?
No, I think it's just a regular.
Just a regular
Yeah, they
cemetery?
were just trying to save time, and they just moved the headstones someplace else, but left the bodies. Which I don't know how that can work, because if you're digging a cellar, one would think you'd come across bodies. But I mean, I know it's a movie, but
No, but that development in Texas I told you about, they actually built over graves. Whether there were gravestones there, I don't know, but they got that land, they mowed it over.
Mhm.
I don't recall if they'd actually reported when they're excavating, did they find any bones? Because sometimes developers don't divulge that. They're
Right.
supposed to. But that would be an idea of these ghosts doing things to these new inhabitants. Is it revenge, or was it, hey, pay attention to what happened to me? I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, revenge ghosts. Alden, you don't have any revenge ghost stories?
Not really.
No ghosts coming back to get.
Oh, what about Stephen King's Pet Cemetery?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of, but that's Stephen King, and I keep thinking of the man with the golden arm. That's a classic old ghost story. Give me back my golden arm. Anyway.
So Lori,
Yes.
I'm thinking of Patrick Swayze saving his girlfriend and getting his former business associate into trouble.
Yes, that was a combination of going back to his love, seeking love. But yeah, he definitely had a mission, didn't he? Because he was set up to die. He was killed, right?
Right.
That's a great movie. Yeah. I'm wondering, are there any true revenge ghost stories? Let me think. Let me think. True ones. Oh my God, there's so many ghost stories. There's your homework for next week. You can find some samples of these. Do some of that. But yeah, seeking love. I mean, there are stories of like Ghost is a movie and it's fiction, but basically, and he really wanted to protect his wife. How about Lost in Need of Guidance? What is that? What do you think that means?
They don't know how to move on.
Right.
Or they do, but they can't.
They need some intervention to move on.
They what?
They need some kind of intervention from the living to help them move on.
Yeah, and that's a classic. That goes to pre-modern ghost stories. They need someone to help them go to where they need to go, and that's why they're visiting the living. So I had a friend whose sister was some sort of medium clairvoyant who worked with I see dead people kind of person, right? And she explained it in a really interesting way, that death, and I think death was like some vast bureaucracy that you had to go through a lot of channels and maybe metaphorical paperwork to get where you needed to go. It was a labyrinth that you had to find the right doors to go through, and of course the psychic mediums were kind of a beacon or a window, and so all these spirits, when they would find someone like her, they'd all rush to that. That's the idea kind of in The Sixth Sense. And of course, I think Beetlejuice, the movie, had a good representation of death and hell just being this monstrous bureaucracy. But she said, yeah, there are many spirits and souls. They don't know what's going on. They don't know if they're dead. They don't know who to talk to. They don't know where to find the light. And that's how she explained it. And I thought, oh, that's interesting.
I just thought of a ghost story, but I don't know what kind of ghost story it is.
Which one? Jean Marie?
I can't remember because it's a Spanish one, but it's about a woman who died. I think her name was La Llorona, maybe.
Oh, no, La Llorona. She's very famous. La Llorona. She's known throughout South America.
She's the one, I think she died or murdered her children, or both, and she comes back to basically drown other children. I can't remember exactly, but
Yeah, look that one up. I think on one of the links I have, she's mentioned. We can go back and look at that. In fact, we can do that now. Let's go back and look for her. She's and there have been videos of possibly hearing her wailing, because she's a ghost you usually hear. And
Yeah.
hang on, let me get out of here. I got to get back into, I think it's in over here. Hold on. Nope, not that one. Where is it? Come on, where are you? Maybe it's over here.
cries for her drowned children. She cries for her dead children, yet she's the one who drowned them.
Oh, for Pete's sake, I put that link in here. It's not there. Where did I put it? Maybe it's down here. Let me take a look. Yeah, let's look at the kinds of ghosts that there are. So, go back to that. This one, I think she's mentioned in here. So that's the other thing, there are different kinds of ghosts. Any of you ever done ghost hunting?
No.
Ever been on a
No.
paranormal investigation?
Sounds cool,
Alden.
but no.
Alden, you ever been on a ghost hunt?
Unfortunately, no.
No, yeah. This is not the one. This is a cool one, but this is not the one I want. So hang on, I gotta find it. That's not it. Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's that one. What? Go back. Ay. Should be right here. All right, then I'll switch out. I think it's this one. All right, let me get out of this PowerPoint and we'll get on this site.
Lauren Lodge has
All right, I'm waiting for this to come up. Yeah, it's in here. We can see this page. But no, not yet, because I haven't shared it. I gotta share it. There it is. Share.
Lauren Lodge.
So types of ghosts, and they're from all over the world. So you've got boat. I just saw a video of some guy in India who caught a boat while he was riding his motorcycle. The Dybbuk, very famous kind of ghost ships. Yanganer, the Ifrit. Oh, Changshi. In Korean, they call it Kwangshi. This is a funny kind of zombie ghost. It's very hilarious. It can only hop, it can only jump. And that's it. It's silly. Changshi. And then Krahang. Lady in Red. There it is. La Llorona. And very famous ghost. It has roots in Mexican folklore, and that a woman marries a rich man, has 2 children with him. One day she spots him with another woman and angrily responds by drowning her children. She realizes what she's done and regretfully proceeds to drown herself. And as punishment for killing her children, she's denied entry to the afterlife and cursed to wander the earth, vainly looking for her children. And people have captured videos of a wailing woman, some weird, mysterious wailing sounds in various parts of Mexico. And then there's, a little more of that post-colonial culture.
I was reading a
What was
fantasy
that?
book. I was reading a fantasy book, but it had some of like the Spanish mythology or whatever in it. And they kind of had like a little twist on the La Llorona ghost, where she's actually trying to take in living children and consider them hers. So she lures them in and she talks to them, and they think she's a really nice lady, and then they try to leave and she's like, no, you have to stay. But they get out, thankfully. But
yeah, so this is pretty cool because the Onryu, I don't know if they have the Yursei, which is another Japanese ghost. it's a woman bent on revenge. I mean, lots of vengeful female ghosts. I wrote, like I said, I wrote an article
I don't know if
on.
they're actually ghosts, but I like the kitsune too.
Well, what? So explain what the kitsune is.
They're fox. They're kind of fox spirits, and
Oh, okay. So yeah, the
I'm probably not
gumiho.
pronouncing it right.
Kitsune,
Gumiho, yes.
in
Yes,
Korean,
gumiho.
they're called gumiho, and they are ghosts, and they are
Yes.
nasty. They are nasty. They are not cute. They are bad ghosts. It means the fox with 9 tails. It's a woman who can turn into a fox, and she has 9 tails, and she is out to get revenge on a man. They're always getting the revenge on the men. When I lived over there, I asked them, "Why are all your ghosts nasty?" And they're all female, and they're always after the men. And the men would just say, "Well, do you blame them? Look at how we treat our women." Oh wow!
Well, then.
You just answered, but you cleared all the static from it. But so this is a pretty cool site, Vampire. Wonder if they have Verlac. There's like, is he a
There he
ghost? Maybe he is now. Virkolax, yeah, they're pretty. Oh, that's Greek, but where are the other ones that were from Eastern Europe? But this is a pretty cool site. So again, I'll send you the PowerPoint, and you can
Lori Lutch has
click on the links and look through this more thoroughly, because it might give you ideas on things. Let me see. I'm going to close that, and I want to get back to this. There we go.
Lori Lutch has
So we're looking at types of ghost stories. So plots, this is basically the reason, the motivation for the ghosts, need of redemption. So again, they need maybe forgiveness for something they did, right? Oh, what there's another one I missed. I just thought of it. Can you think of some other reasons why ghosts come back? Well, I like messing with the living, because they do.
That's the living. They want
Warning the
to
living. There's other ones though. I didn't think of all of them, but what's another reason a ghost would come back?
be loved.
Well, maybe they didn't feel that they had done all their work, or there
That's
was
it.
something
Yeah.
left undone.
Unfinished business, yeah.
Finished
Life's
business.
purpose.
Yeah, I didn't put that in there. I saved it for you. Yeah, I got something to do. We gotta find in fact, Netflix had a cute one called There's a Ghost in My House. Have you seen it or run across it? I think it's called There's a Ghost in My House. That's a nice, cute, comedic, nice movie about family moves into this house. The other family ran away. It opens with the first family running out screaming, like, we're out of here. This other family comes in, and the boy, their adolescent son, notices there's a ghost in the attic, but he doesn't get freaked out about it. He thinks it's kind of cool and curious. But you find out in the movie this ghost needs something has to be resolved or finished. A message has got to go to the daughter. I forget what it was, but it's a cute little movie. But yeah, you have unfinished business. Alden, what other kinds of plots are in the ghost stories you tell? What are they?
Mostly just the ones that you've already listed. Of course, those seem like the most common ones.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of people who haven't fully moved on, and maybe maybe they still want something from the living.
Right. Well, they're coming to solicit the living for something, right? I just think they come back to mess with the living. Those are the ghosts that I encounter. They're just coming back to mess with me. So, and believe me, this house used to have a few. They're gone now. Boy, would they mess with me.
They only threw a couple fry pans.
Yeah, only a couple. And things would just disappear. You never find them again. And they're not here anymore. Sadly, they left. Which is another mystery. Okay, types of hauntings. So do you understand what all these are? Have you run into this language? Like a residual haunting?
I assume residual would be like, it's not actually there, but some of the energy remains.
Yeah, their energies are, no, people see them.
No.
But there's a difference between a residual haunting and an intelligent haunting. Anybody know?
Residual plays over and over again. It's like something from the past.
Yes.
And intelligent is basically it's an actual spirit that thinks or is acting on its own, so to speak. And
It interacts with you.
yeah.
Residuals can be seen. There are many stories of, oh, I see a guy, a soldier in Confederate clothing. There's a famous story out of the White House of some diplomat and his wife. This is early 20th century. And they were staying in one of the rooms in the lighthouse. The wife woke up, says, there's a British soldier in here trying to burn a bed, and a red coat, like Revolutionary War. And she woke her husband up, and they left in the middle of the night. But you see, in 1812, the British did come into Washington, and they tried to burn the White House, among other
Yeah, the War of
places.
1812.
And so there have been sightings of soldiers, for example, not even in New England. There have been sightings of on certain motel, not motels, but bread and breakfast places. They'll see a Revolutionary War soldier standing at the top of the stairs. But it doesn't interact. It doesn't really see you. It doesn't interact. It's just doing what it did at the time. So the British soldier setting fire to a bed or to a room, that's what he did in the past. And his energy is just replaying that. So it's like a recording in a loop, right?
I just recently wrote that
What
one.
was that, Jean Marie?
I said I only just recently learned a bit about the War of 1812.
Well, a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, I had heard about it, but I didn't know much about it. And I'm learning it from some historical fiction books.
Well, remember we were talking about Fort Knox and all those forts. A lot of them were constructed because of the British trying to come in and invade the United States
Yes, they
again.
burned the White House that time.
They did burn the White House. They didn't burn it down. Dolly Madison grabbed all of George Washington's portrait, among other things. She got all the attendants, the servants, grab this, grab that, we're out of here. They literally left dinner on the table. And when the British soldiers came in, they ate the Madison's dinner. That's how close it was. They tried to burn the patent office, but one brave patent officer said, please don't destroy this. This is a lot of invention. Don't touch it. And the Brits backed off. A lot of good ghost stories down there. The Octagon
Because
House.
they backed off.
Well, he did respect that there's a lot of valuable information in the patent office, so that he backed off and didn't burn it.
Yeah, I could have a lot of British information.
They tried to burn what was the Capitol, and they did a lot of damage, but the residual hauntings are just the ones that you can see them in their original clothes from period clothes. They're just walking through the walls, they're just standing on the stairs. They catch you by surprise, and it's great storytelling. And oh my God, I saw Lincoln's ghost, kind of. People who've seen Lincoln's ghost don't necessarily say Lincoln is seeing them. He's just walking or standing where he would have. But an intelligent haunting, it knows you, it sees you, it's going to talk to you, it's going to whisper in your ear, it's going to pull your hair, it's going to pinch you, it's going to scratch you, it's going to react to you. So it's interesting what makes the difference of these. And we know what the poltergeist, what's a poltergeist?
Isn't that the one that like supposedly haunts girls as they're having their cycle or something?
Well, girls and boys, usually adolescents attract them. That's a theory. You know what that means, poltergeist?
Noisy ghost.
Noisy ghost, the German. Why is it noisy? What's
They
it
like
do?
to throw things around.
It makes noise. Pots and pans, furniture moving. I mean, this stuff defies all physics. And I think I was watching one of those. I was watching the Travel Channel earlier, and they were showing some video of some guy who's had poltergeist activity, and one of the experts they talked to says, well, maybe we should just get in there and play and throw things with them. Why not? Instead of being afraid and running out of the house.
You want to play? I'll play with you.
But it's a question if it's a real spiritual entity or is it displaced energy from our own psyches. Lots of theories on poltergeist.
Oh yeah, like the telekinesis.
Anyone have a poltergeist experience? Come on, I want to hear it. Nothing.
Yeah.
The only ghost we've had didn't make noise. He did stuff, but he didn't make
I only
noise.
have I've only encountered those. And I've encountered them since I was a kid, and it's not all the time. It comes and goes wherever I live. So I have to ask the question, is it me? But it's not everywhere. I mean, I went decades without encountering one until I'd move into certain, like this house, and stuff was going crazy. And then I had to ask the landlord about it. And he said, yeah, there's something in there. But then he said, but you know what? Ghosts, squirrels, big deal. You got squirrels, you got ghosts. So that's
Ghost
my
squirrel.
you got squirrels, you got ghosts, big deal.
It's a ghost squirrel.
And I had some paranormal people come through here, and they said there had been about 3 different entities, but they did make a lot of noise. And I heard from other people who'd been in this house that they'd experienced it too. So I don't know, but now it's nothing. They went away.
Let's be fair.
Elementals. Anyone heard of those?
No. The most thing I know of elementals is like Last Airbender, where it's people with fire elemental or if they're water fire.
Yeah,
That
well,
was-
they are earth spirits. They're not necessarily in the top. They're not necessarily earth and fire, and but they're energies from the earth that are very indifferent to us, and they can take forms of shadowy thing. They're not shadow people either, and I didn't put that on there. We got to talk about them. But they're energies from nature, and they will do very destructive stuff to humans. But they don't care. They're just like curious and indifferent. Like we look at an anthill. That's what elementals do.
Oh, I have heard of those I've heard of that elemental in another book.
Yeah.
It was
There's
Celtic
demonic.
version.
There's demonic energy too. And what do we mean by that?
Probably like the penta, whatever the thing is called.
Pentagram.
Yeah, that word.
Like my neighbor doing her voodoo and putting curse on it. Yeah.
Well,
I-
it's the spirit
I-
doing bad stuff.
So there are bad spirits, good spirits, bad spirits. Demonic is demons, and that's a whole different dimension of this. And demon possession. Some people truly believe that they exist.
Well, yeah, I mean, all those
You need
accounts back
exorcism.
in like the 1700s, the witch trials. They had
Well,
demonic possession.
Well, yeah, that was weird with the witch trials. That was considered to be demonic activity. The only thing demonic were the human beings who were just hurting other human beings.
Well, yeah.
But they had strong belief in the devil and the presence of the devil, and they wanted to set it up that these women, particularly women, were in court with the devil, and some of these women had property that other people wanted. People have to look at
Very
the
good.
economics of the Salem witch trial.
I'm not sure if Sarah Good was someone.
No, she was the first. She was poor, and she had her daughter, and they'd be beggars, and they didn't like that.
Dorcas, I think her name was Dorcas.
Yeah, she was the first. Not the first to hang, but the first to be accused and arrested. It was Bridget Bishop who was the first to be hanged. She owned property, and she was a mouthy, obnoxious widow. And nobody wanted to listen to these nasty old ladies, well, she wasn't that old, but yeah, something about the Salem witch trials. So I don't know if that has to do with ghosts, but today in modern folklore, if you go to Salem or Danvers, they say a lot of places are haunted by the spirits.
Haunted by the women who were killed.
And anybody who's descended from the sheriff of the time have died early deaths. Anyone who's had the job as sheriff has died an early death. Curse upon them, right? And then we have ancestral spirits, which are pretty benign, and they're looking after you. Any other kinds? So what other kind of ghosts do we think of?
What about animal ghosts?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Animal ghosts, and there have been accounts of cats, dogs, horses. There's a place in New Hampshire. Oh shoot, it's a big kind of one of those old Victorian style stone, almost like a castle. And now it's like a bed and breakfast or a hotel. And they claim they hear the horses' hooves of the stage because they had a stable. They had a stable and a livery there, and they can still hear the horses coming through.
Yeah.
So yeah, animal ghosts are one. Anything else? What about shadow people? What are they?
I assume probably not our shadows.
What does anybody know? Alden, you know about shadow people?
Not very much necessarily, but
Yeah. Do you have a story about them?
no.
No. Oh boy, you gotta see. I'm giving you inspiration for more stories. Here's a shadow. That's a picture I took on a ghost hunt, but it looks like a shadow person, doesn't it? Yeah,
I
don't
don't think they're very nice.
that picture. That was some kid. That was some kid. He must have been 10 going down the stairs at a place in Standish. The Two Black Dogs Tavern is supposed to be very haunted. So they have these ghost hunting trainings there on all they bring their family. People bring their kids. And so he's holding some kind of, now maybe that's his phone, but he has a ghost app on it. So he's going down these stairs and when I took the picture, it was very dark, so I did some super saturation enhancement. It looks pretty good, pretty creepy. But that's some kid.
Might look for one of them.
Looks some kid on a ghost hunt. It's not it is a shadow of a person or silhouette. But what is shadow? What is a shadow person?
And the one thing that comes to my mind, I don't know, I've never heard of them, but the thing that comes to my mind is like you have your shadow and it's you but not you kind of thing. I don't know.
Well, I don't know what that would be, but Renee, you've heard of shadow people or
I have in some of the books I've read, and from what I've read, they are something to be feared.
yes,
They're not supposed to be
they're not
really
nice.
nice beings, so to speak, if they really do exist. But and yeah, so I don't know too much about them. But they have been seen. They're just they look like shadows, but they move around, and you can see them in the dark. They're like dark on dark, so to
They're
speak.
dark on dark. You can be looking in the darkest part of your room, and then you see an actual figure that's blacker than the black of the shadow.
Yeah,
Very distressing. They are seen and they're captured on these paranormal videos occasionally. Again,
I wouldn't be taking a picture, I'd be hiding.
no, usually they're captured by the guy didn't even know they were there. It's like something like if something like this figure you see on the screen moves behind me and I don't see it, but you see it, there it is. We have a shadow person. They're very allegedly they have very negative energy and you start feeling sick. And they're not good and you don't want them to touch you or anything. There's question if they're even spirits or are they interdimensional creatures. But there's something else that's in the paranormal world. And what are they there for? And it seems like they're kind of looking in on us. It seems like they're in a property or in a place and they're looking around. They don't want to be captured on camera. They really move very fast. And you might see them peeking around a door and boom, they're gone. But they don't really want to be that close to us. But, it's a weird experience that is very frightening. People don't feel good around them. Any other kind of
Let's talk. So maybe leave the light on tonight.
What was that?
That's all. Let's talk might make me leave my light on tonight.
Well, even with your light on, they can still be there.
Yeah, I know, but at least I'll see them better.
What other kinds of ghosts? I mean, I know Alden, you're the ghost.
Well-
I want to hear one of Alden's stories, actually. What kind of ghost?
What about
Go ahead. Yeah.
what would you consider like spirit animals or like spirit guides? Would you
Well,
put
yeah.
that in a ghost category?
That's an interesting thought because I've lived in cultures where they believe in that. They have totemic animals. Where I lived in Africa, I remember one time I lived in the jungle and there was a very large panther, it was a panther, a leopard, kind of pacing along the path in the woods I was with my friend and I'm like, this doesn't look good. And he said, no, that's my ancestral spirit in that animal. This guy didn't care. He wasn't worried. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is, but there was a very strong belief in that. Native Americans have very strong beliefs in they seeing their spirit animal or their spirit animal will appear maybe in a real physical form. Like that's what I've seen. They do manifest in a real physical form, and it's a sign of something that you're supposed to pay attention to. I wonder if when you think of the spirit, and believe me, early humans absolutely believed that everything had a soul or a spirit. Animals did. So if you killed an animal to feed you, you had to give it thanks. You had to do certain ceremonies. You had to recognize that was a living thing that lost its soul. So a lot of cultures believed in earlier times that animals had souls and we had souls, and that even animal spirits can come and do things to you, good or bad. What's this thing with killer whales attacking yachts right now? Come on.
Yeah.
Somebody killed a killer whale and now they're getting revenge, but they're not dead. Maybe the spirit of the whale is coming back. Yeah, it's a good it's an interesting notion, but it goes to the idea that all living things have spirit, even trees.
My friend had played a song a few weeks ago, and it was supposedly based on a true story about, was it Phantom 309 or something? It was a
Oh
truck
yeah, wasn't that a train that reappeared?
train, yeah.
Oh yeah, the train. Yeah. The ghost trains.
Oh,
Ghost
yeah.
You ever heard of that, James? Have you heard of ghost trains?
Only on Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Yeah. No, there are lots of stories of ghost trains all over.
Abraham Lincoln's train.
Absolutely. That
Oh,
train
this
is
one was a train. I thought this was some kind of truck or whatever, and this guy was
what
walking
was the
along
name
beside.
of it?
I thought it was
Phantom
Phantom
what?
309, but
Let me see if I can find it. But there are ghost trains, there
Yeah.
are ghost trucks, there are ghost airplanes.
yeah.
There are stories of some people out in the Midwest who'd see bright lights and they'd hear loud noise and like a train coming to their house and there's no train there.
Mhm.
And then it would just go away. It would disappear. Let me see. 309, you said?
I think so. I don't know if that's a number, but I know it was Phantom something for a number.
Yeah, it's a truck. It's a truck. Yeah, it's a song.
Yeah, she was telling me the song. She said supposedly the song was based on a true story.
Probably. Is the Phantom 309 real? Well, let's see. The song is coming in. It's about the song. I want to know if the story of a crash is true. So it's a song about a truck crash, but that's the name of the truck. It's not that the ghost comes back or the truck comes back, is it?
Yeah, supposedly the guy
Oh,
the
he was
picked up this hitchhiker and then dropped him off, and he at a truck stop or whatever, and he went inside to
Yeah.
get coffee or something, and he told the guy at the register what had happened, and he's like, "That's a ghost train."
Yeah, ghost truck. You
Ghost
got to
truck,
ride
yeah.
in a ghost truck. Yeah, I see it. I see it here. Well, there's lots of stories where truckers, I think there was a series called Haunted Highways for a while, and where truckers would pick up hitchhikers and then turn around, they're gone. I heard those stories. Or the women in white stories. There's another type of ghost.
No.
The one, what's her name? Cemetery Mary or something in Chicago area.
No,
Resurrection Mary.
Resurrection Mary, that's it.
Yeah.
And it's by the cemetery. And
we're Typhoid Mary.
they'd
but
see her. Well, she
don't
wasn't a
think she-
ghost.
Yeah, she wasn't a
I
ghost.
don't know if she's a, but yeah, what is it with Resurrection Mary? Go ahead, Renee. Tell that one. If
Oh
you-
my word. I think she was on the way home from a dance and was in a car accident and died.
Yes.
And so now she's eternally trying to get home. And so she hitchhikes. I think I might be thinking of two different stories too, and so she's like, yeah, I need to get home, and they pick her up and then she disappears from the car.
Yep. And
So,
usually she leaves an article. There are many versions of this, but
yeah.
that's the most famous one that's got a lot of documentation.
Or they go by the cemetery.
They go
and
by
she's
the
like, okay, yeah,
cemetery.
just drop me off here.
Right. She says,
Yeah.
drop me off here. There's nothing there. There's just a cemetery.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
turn and she's gone. She's
Yeah.
just gone. There are a lot of hitchhiker stories. Maybe the girl left a shawl or a jacket in the car, and then he tries to find out where she lives and finds out she's been dead for umpteen years.
There's a
Those are-
story.
Go ahead, Renee, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, there's a story, I have 2 CDs that I listen to every Halloween. It's called, Tales from the Maine Woods, and it's from Joe Perham.
Yes,
And he's gone now, but he was a Maine humorist, but he told these stories. And there's one called the Haynesville Witch.
I've heard about that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, and
Tell
that
us.
was pretty creepy, and it's about this, girl who, I mean, it's not a true story, but she was on her way to Bangor, and she was driving up with a friend, and they went up the Haynesville Road, and there was a bad crash, and he died at the scene, but she disappeared into the woods, and I mean, I'm not gonna tell the whole thing because it's kind of longish.
That's okay. We got time.
But truckers do pick her up, and then she disappears once
Right.
post.
So there've been
So-
more than one sighting of her, but you're saying this is true or not true, or this is
I
fake?
think it's fake. It's just a made up story, but so I have looked it up, and even, I mean, because there is a Haynesville, Maine,
Yes.
but the Haynesville Witch story, the spelling's different.
Hey, it's like the Blair Witch. That's totally made
Exactly.
up.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
remember that little town in Maryland and how it really, oh my God, that poor town got destroyed. It was so bad with the tourists. It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
tiny little village in Maryland, and the mayor had to call the mayor of Amityville because when Amityville Horror came out and everybody's rushing to Amityville, Long Island, and trashing everything and
Ugh.
trying to get to that house. They went through that in Burkittsville, Maryland, because of the Blair Witch.
Mhm.
That was interesting, but yeah, in Amityville, is that a true story? I mean, that
I read a book from an Amityville, so that's kind of funny.
Yeah. I
was
think it finally came out that it was not. It was
yeah,
all,
they debunked it.
I mean, the murders were real.
The murders are real.
The possession.
Yeah, well, the possession, he admitted he made that up.
Yeah.
The guy Defoe was the family name. I think he died now. He's no longer around either.
Defoe, I know
But
Daniel
what
Defoe.
made that famous were the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren. You guys know who they were?
Nope.
They're both dead now too. So
Yeah,
were
they were big ghost hunters. So to
big
speak.
ghost hunters back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. They rather let's see, she just died a couple years ago. Ed has been dead maybe 6 years or 10 years. Their nephew is John Zaffis, who is the haunted collector, has a museum in Connecticut of all these haunted objects, including the doll Annabelle. But the Warrens were really big demonologists and ghost hunters, and they got involved with investigating the Amityville house, and they swore it had demons in it. But at the end of the day, it's come out that it was just a stunt for this family living in it who take what was their name? Lutz. They're
think
trying to
so.
make they were in a lot of financial trouble, and they were trying to find a way to make a buck, and it just sort of backfired. But no, it did. They made no money actually. The movie industry did, and of course Jay Anson, who wrote the book, he took the lion's share. They got very little. They wound up having to move, and their marriage went disintegrated, and they're gone too now. But so how much of this stuff can we believe, right? But there are still cases where, like you were talking about, James, a house where you knew that there was a bad feeling and you didn't want to go in, right?
Right.
But did you understand why you had that feeling?
It automatically decided that, I don't know if haunted might have been a strong word, but there was just a unfriendly spirit. And it was cold and
Felt cold.
unfriendly.
Yeah. It was cold, and you felt that right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Did you get the reaction like the hair coming up on the back of your neck and
And
prickly
not,
goosebumps?
not that I remember. No, I
Uh,
just didn't felt welcome and wasn't interested in the house any longer.
Yeah. And so that was it. Goodbye, sayonara kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going in there. Has anyone else had an experience like that, going to any place and you just know, you just feel there's some bad mojo here?
I don't think so.
Anybody? Not you, Deb?
I'm sorry, I was very interested in this next slide, so I apologize. Were you
No,
asking?
no. This one, the components?
Yes.
Yeah,
This
okay,
this is what I was hoping we would get to. 'cause
no,
I'm-
we're getting there. We're getting there. I just had to do a lot of, a little back. I'm such a pedagogue, I had to give all this history. So yes, the components of a ghost story, because I am hoping, I know poor Rachel, she looks exhausted here. I'm hoping like you come in every week and I want us to have some ghost stories, right? I want you to try, you've got to try your hand at writing, composing.
Oh
Put it
boy.
together. And I do want to hear stories, because I guess Alden is a pro at this.
Mm.
Not really. It's
You
just
don't think
kind
so?
it's just kind of my grandparents like partially exaggerating.
Oh, they admire you. They admire you so much. That's great. So here's what goes into ghost story stuff. And again, think of anything else. By the way, you like my picture of the tree with all the orbs on it?
Mm.
I was at that house in Standish. And it was weird because I could argue it's insect or whatever reflection, but you couldn't hear one insect that night. It was a very odd place. So first of all, we have to understand what goes into a good ghost story, right? You have to have a setting. Now, usually it's a spooky setting, right? It's dark, it's the bump in the night kind of thing that we're going to talk about. But sometimes it's not so spooky. The question is, do ghosts only haunt in the dark, in dark places, run down, broken down places? Or can they happen in nice sunlit, cheery places?
You can have a brand new house that's haunted.
Yes, you can.
If it's brand new built on,
Yes.
haunted land, so to speak. So yeah.
But still, you can take that nice, beautiful, pristine, brand new home, and you still got to make it spooky if you're going to make that ghost story. And what defines spooky is that there's something offsetting. There's something uncanny. The key word here to get people to react or to think or to provoke like a what's going on reaction, you've got to have something uncanny going on. Like, oh my God, that doll just moved. And I didn't. Oh, I hate dolls because I've seen that really. Strange, like here we're strange sound or a strange odor is another one I didn't put here. What's making that knocking sound in the cellar? Oh, it's Nellie Butler. Okay.
Yay.
So strange sounds, absolutely. Whether it's thumps and bumps in the night, apparitions in whatever form. They can come as mist orbs. They can be full-bodied, partial-bodied, a floating head. That's
No.
my deal. That's my deal with ghosts. Okay, no floating heads.
Yeah.
Be here, I'm okay, but I don't want to see no floating heads.
Mm.
What other ways can a ghost appear?
Mm. They can
Bright
change
lights.
something else.
That has happened. And sometimes when there are figures that are coming in the form of a really bright, luminous figure, they're often determined to be angels. That's what I've heard an interpretation of that to be. Yeah, you have to think about how many ways can a ghost appear. There's another great little movie called I think it's called Ghost Story. There are a couple of movies called Ghost Story. One was made in 1989. That's a really good one. And then there's another one that was more modern, very indie film, but the guy dies in an accident and all you see in the movie is he's just standing there in a sheet, the typical way we would think of a ghost. He is dead. He's wearing a sheet, but as he's standing in the corner of the house, he's seeing how his wife and kids and his family is carrying on and she's remarried. He's watching all life just moving on. And then
I think I've heard of that one. It sounds very depressing.
It's
Yeah.
a little sad, but it's a bittersweet movie. I like the way they did it. Just a guy in a sheet, and that's the ghost. And there are other ghosts in other places, and they're all wearing sheets. Just a guy like a Charlie Brown, kind of sheet thing.
It's
But
a
it's a good
costume.
movie. But there's another version of Ghost Story made in 1989. That's also a good one. It's kind of a mystery ghost story. It's pretty good. What else? What's your ghost look like? It could be shadow people. Another type of apparition that's in the paranormal nomenclature are black-eyed children. Have you heard of those?
Hmm.
They're very bad. Look them up.
I kind of like what they have in Coraline.
Yeah, which
I've
was,
never seen the Tim Burton movie, but
no, I've
I
seen Coraline, yeah.
think they had button eyes or
Well,
something.
they did, and she's kind of like, but she's not a real black-eyed children. I mean, I don't know if he borrowed that from the stories of black-eyed children, that look, because they are not nice, and you do not want to encounter them. There are stories of them, so you can look that up, black-eyed children. They just they appear. You're sitting in your car, and there they are, looking in your car and whatever, and they want in, and they've got black eye. Their eyes are just totally black. There have been several sightings of those. Other things that are components, moved objects, things that are moving or have been moved. I could also say disappeared objects. Oh my God, my keys were right here. I tell you, ghosts are great gaslighters. Boy, do they make you think you're crazy. Because you just put it there, it's not there now. And you tear your house apart looking for them. And then 3 days later, you find them in the weirdest place you couldn't even imagine. And it's just like, am I going crazy? Am I going nuts?
So my fridge one time.
Either the object is caught moving on its own, like you've seen it, or it's moved, it's already been moved. It's like, hey, that was over there, and now it's over here. The feeling of being watched. So that's a real important, that creepy, somebody's in the room, somebody's there. I mean, even like James was saying, he didn't feel comfortable. You felt there was a presence there, right, James? You felt something was there, and you were not, did you feel like it was watching you, or did you?
In that instance, it was just an emptiness, a black, cold emptiness.
Well, that's another thing I did not put in here. They sap your energy. They do. And you feel the cold, you feel drained. Your batteries and all your ghost hunting equipment go dead. Like you just charged them. No, they go dead within a couple of minutes. They drain energy. So that's another one I didn't put in here. Disembodied voices. So sometimes you can hear them with the naked ear, or they come in the form of an EVP. Now, do we know what an EVP is?
No.
Extra vehicle presence.
Or protection.
No, it's oh my gosh, no, I just
Electronic
voice phenomenon. Yes, thank you. You're getting me all confused. Electronic voice phenomenon.
There we go.
Because, and I have my own experience with this too. I was doing an investigation in 2010 at the Empire Dine and Dance in Portland. It's called the Empire Restaurant now.
Okay. We've been there.
We were just there last week.
The Chinese restaurant. Yeah. Well, back then it was called Empire Dine and Dance. It was not a Chinese restaurant. It was just a bar. They had 2 floors. They had a basement level. They had that main street level. And then they had the upstairs where you go to hear music, right?
Right.
That's what the place is. And before that, in 1900, when that building was built, it was the Chinese American Center, and it was the Chinese American Center for 54 years. So in 1954, that ended. I think it had a Chinese restaurant. Then it became a bank. Then it became a couple of other, bar kind of environments. But I had, I was working with some film. We were filming some shows, to do some paranormal stuff. And someone from the establishment got a hold of me and said, hey, we got something strange going on in here. Can you guys come in and investigate? And again, I'll send you a link to this. You can see it online. But we had cameramen and everything. We had the paranormal investigators. I kind of went on by my own into the creepy room in the basement. That's me. I'm going to go into the creepy room in the basement. And I had a digital recorder, and I was just trying to gauge, what are the sounds the building makes? We do a baseline reading, and I had a technical person with me, and there was a tiny little room, and only I could squeeze in there. And she was kind of hanging at the door. You couldn't even open the whole way. And I'm trying to explain there's a lot of electrical boxes in here, and this is why people are feeling nervous. And I felt this weird tingly feeling in there. I felt this weird, and I even say that, whoa, that's weird. And then we left and I didn't make anything of it. And then it was a few days later, we're listening to all the audio. And there was that point in the investigation. And there were 5 people in my office, and we all heard the voice, "I am here," just as clear as a bell. And everybody's going, "Whoa, what?" And I'm going, "Whoa, what the heck was that?" So I didn't know what it was. I thought, well, did my technical person, was she a ventriloquist, kind of thing?
Mm.
So I had a very high-end audio engineer who was trained under George Lucas. I knew people like that. And I said, "Can you do me a favor? You're an audio engineer. Can you analyze the audio, the frequencies, whatever, on this recording?" And I gave her the raw recording. We didn't touch it. We didn't do anything. And she got back to me in a few days with her results. And guess what it was? She was not happy. She said, "Well, I can hear all these people, I can hear you talking. But that third voice," she said, "I don't know what to make of it." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "The human voice can only go as low as 20 hertz. We can only hear as low as 20 hertz. Anything under that, we cannot hear. A dog might hear it, a cat might hear it, a whale might hear it, it's a lower frequency." And she said that voice was at 16 hertz. So it was below the human capacity to generate, a frequency. And I said, "Thank you very much. That's all I need to know." She did not like it at all. But that wasn't the only EVP we caught. But we couldn't hear it with the naked ear. But I remember feeling that sensation that there's something there, but I wrote it off like, "Oh, it's all this electrical stuff." That's how I justified it.
Nope.
I'll send you the link to that video. We have part of that investigation online. But so the whole idea of a disembodied voice, sometimes you can hear them. They wake you up at night. And then you're saying, is that in my head or is that real? Or you've got a recorder going and you hear it on the recording. And I had another acquaintance who was a ghost hunter, and he was a physicist as well. We're almost running out of time. He was a physicist, so he actually did experiments in haunted places with recording equipment inside a vacuum jar, a vacuum bell jar, right? It's a vacuum. So what do we know about sound?
That it can't travel in a vacuum. I'm
It
assuming.
cannot travel in a vacuum, so it can't be somebody's voice traveling through the room. And he caught EVPs in a vacuum. And he said, "This tells me it's electromagnetic phenomenon." So that was kind of cool. And I remember reading his book, and lots of physics in there, lots. He was a physicist, but he believed in paranormal. All right, another thing that you can look at, sudden illness or accidental injury, like we talked about with the homes that were on the African-American graveyard. Cold spots, but sometimes hot spots too. But cold spots are the most, like you felt cold, James, right?
Right.
Coming in. And then the writing, mysterious writing on the wall, the ceiling, mirrors in the bathroom. One of the most famous ones you can look up is writings on Polaroid film. Have you heard about that case? In California, Google that, look that up. Ghostly writings on Polaroid film. That, I think, is still a mystery that they haven't cracked today.
Yeah, I bet that's where the podcast I listened to got that idea from.
Probably, but there was a couple living in this house in California, and they take pictures, and then all of a sudden this weird writing would appear on the film. Now, how does this
Yeah,
happen?
that's what was happening in the podcast, which it's a fantasy podcast, but one of the characters.
Yeah, they stole it from the real story, right?
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
he
it's
hears
real
the
cool
voices
stuff.
too sometimes.
It's real cool stuff if you just want to Google that and look for it. So yes, I am hoping you are going to be storytellers that from here on out. Okay. I just wanted to give you all this background and see what you know, and maybe it inspires something. So I am, you don't have to tell me if you believe in ghosts, you do or don't. I would like to know if you've had any paranormal encounters, like you've already said so, James and Deb. Have you met something, encountered it? And I invite you to share your stories with the rest of us, and let's talk about these stories. And also, I have some publications here that I'll send you a link to my website. I had 2 editions of Paranormal World, but COVID came along and shut it down because we couldn't get out and do the investigations. So, and I haven't had the time since COVID's lifted to reconnect, and I've been talking to a couple of people, you know, do we want to go out and do some more investigations? But I welcome real life ghost stories in there. If you've had your encounter, can you tell us about it? But you don't have to send them to me. If you want to, that would be great. The other thing is I have Hell's Half Acre. That's our newest thing. This is mostly fiction. It is fiction, but
Let's say, so can I write a fiction ghost story?
yes, you can, and you have already, Jean Marie. So is Rachel.
no, but I
Rachel
mean, I
wrote a
actually
very
have
good
one.
one about the Civil War widow. That was a very good ghost
I
story.
kind of have an idea about even further back in history with the and I'm not French, so I'm gonna say it wrong, but the Fille du Roi.
The which one? Fissoir, right? FL. How do you spell it? FL.
I think it's like FLIEESDUROI.
Oh, I don't know. You'd have to
That's
send me
back
that.
Fille
Send
du
that
Roi.
to me. And
The
also,
Fille du
you know,
Roi.
if you have any, if you want, you know, there's my email right here. But again, I'm going to send you. I think I have your all your emails. I'll send you this PowerPoint, and you can look through it. But I'm looking forward from here on out. It's up to you now. We got to have some ghost stories.
It's a Canadian thing, so
Is it what, a Canadian thing?
yeah, the Fille du Roi is a Canadian back in like the late 1600s. The book I'm listening to right now is from 1666, I think. Is when the king sent young women over to Canada to populate it.
Oh, yes, yeah. Oh,
They had another name for it in the book, but
Daughters of the King. Well, that would Fille du Roi.
Yes.
That's what it would be.
yes,
Yeah.
that. But but on the cover they put it in the other order.
So, you know, you can dig around, poke around. You can, if you want to do a true, like you run across a true ghost story, maybe not your experience, feel free to share that. You know, historical events like we've been talking about. So does that seem amenable for you guys to do? Are you guys up for that?
I think I'm hatching an idea in my mind, so.
What do you think? Well, I welcome it either way. I mean, we have 3 more sessions, and I do want us to try to tell different kinds of ghost stories, or even find one. You know, if you're not a writer, and I hope you are though, but you know, just find something and share it, and let's talk about, well, what's the meaning of that story? You know, what do you think? Like the Bell Witch story down in Tennessee. Are you familiar with that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, things like that. I don't know. What do you think? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. What do you mean, huh, Renee? You know a lot of ghost stories, Renee. So, okay.
I've come across a few from my coworkers and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah. Even if it's not yours, that's fine. We're here to do ghost stories on these summer nights. And, you know, I know we don't have a campfire to sit around, which would be nice, but my skeleton over there, he'll just sit and listen. And I got a creepy doll way in the back somewhere, some creepy thing. I got creepy things all over the house. So you think you'll bring in a ghost? Everybody bring in a ghost story next week? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm kind. And let's do that. Okay. And look, whether it's your own, I don't care. You know, just bring one in. Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
guys. Thank you for being here. I love it. Thank you. I'll send you this stuff. I'll get this slideshow to you. Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All
Have a good night.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.